I want to encourage any leaders who may listen to this that if you're like a laggard, right? You're a late adopter and you're afraid of it, then find someone in your organization who's already using it and let them teach you. Like make it a
Mhm.
safe space for them to show you how to use it or bring them in to give them a seat at the table.
Welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites with two returning guests, and I love them, and I'm gonna have you hear the story from one of them on the history that they have because they've got a long freaking history together. And then Michael connected me with Bethany. So Bethany, I'll start with you. Bethany, author of soon to be birth Leadership on the Rocks. So I cannot wait for them. I'm so excited because I know it is filled. I got a preview with just the way you describe stuff, your analogies that use everything. So I'm super excited, and host of a podcast, Leadership on the Rocks. And that in itself is an analogy, by the way, people. So welcome.
Oh,
And
thank
Michael
you.
Stinnett, Unstuck Coach. And you're helping, is it teachers, educators with career transitions primarily?
Yeah, that's the primary people that I help.
Yeah, okay. So welcome back. And so we were chatting before I hit record because the topic we picked this time is just around AI space. And there's been a lot, as you know, in the news and talk about it. And so just kind of what you're hearing and what's going on, it's how it's impacting you. The quote that we landed on is going to be as more and more artificial intelligence is entering into the world, more and more emotional intelligence must enter into leadership.
Mm. Oh, that's just the best quote ever.
It did
But
stop me. It
it's
did
certainly
stop
true.
me. It
Yeah.
did stop me. So Bethany, what does it mean to you? I mean, when you hear that, because of the stuff that we've heard, what comes to mind for you?
Well, first of all, I mean, when you're talking about leadership, and that's really kind of AI and leadership is the topic of this episode. Leadership is about influencing people. You have to have people skills, and people skills means you have to have emotional intelligence. You have to have it for yourself of being able to recognize, be very mindful of the emotions you're feeling so that you know how you're showing up.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to be able to read the room to be able to understand what people are going through so that you can meet their needs and serve them and lead them in that way. So, emotional
Bingo.
intelligence is huge in leadership. So, I love the quote, as AI is increasing, your emotional intelligence must also increase.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, what you're saying is you could be the one on the front line that's going, I love this stuff. I love it, I love it, I love it. And you turn around to your team and they're freaking out. And if you can't read the room to know that, you may be moving ahead and your team is like just stressed out. So they're
Yeah.
not being productive, they're not moving through, and you're causing humans to have this experience that they don't deserve to have.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree with you.
I think that's so true. And one of the challenges is like with AI, everything's getting faster and everybody's expecting more. And one of the trends in leadership for the last probably 20, 30 years has been productivity, increasing productivity, increasing productivity. And sometimes when we focus so much on productivity, we forget about the people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
that's where the emotional intelligence has to come in. And to your point just now, Michelle, that you were making is I'm all in on the AI movement. I don't like calling it artificial intelligence because I feel like that's an oxymoron. Like I think like intelligence is real, but
Yeah.
either way, I think we can be the pioneers and the early adopters, but many of the people on our team are afraid of it. They don't know how to use it. They're afraid of failing. They're afraid of their jobs being replaced.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mhm.
as leaders, if we don't empower them, equip them with the skills to use AI and to understand AI, which requires some emotional intelligence to say, okay, here's where you are right now. Here's where we
Mm-hmm.
want you to be. Like we have to put those things together. Otherwise, we're going to leave our people behind.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's interesting to talk about that because I go back to there's an education piece. The reality of it is there are jobs that are currently happening today that will no longer exist the way they're happening today.
Mhm.
It's just
Mhm.
that's just part of it. And if we look at um, disruptive innovation, if you will, because that's what this is, right? That's come in, it's come into to industries and everything before. We need to, as leaders, the responsibility, right, aside from emotional intelligence, is to look ahead because we have the responsibility of the care and feeding of our people, right? Is to say, okay, what does this new evolution of what we do look like in this world? And who are the people that want to upskill to step in to be doing jobs that don't currently exist today, because there's jobs that exist today that will go away. And I think that foresight and that strategy and that ability to look ahead is so important, instead of sitting on the sideline watching it happen, and then someone coming along going, hey, if you do this thing, then you can get rid of 100 jobs. And it's like, but you haven't prepared your people.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
true. And I want to give a throwback to the duplicity of, you have to look ahead, but you can also easily look behind. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, look at history. Whenever Alexander the Great, with his military presence, came and conquered the world and spread, Hellenism and the Greek culture, that dramatically changed the world. Then you have the
Mm-hmm.
first revolution in the 1700s, and then it's coming along in the 1800s with industries, and then the iPhone in the early 2000s. I mean, major, I don't know if you want to call it technologies, or just things have happened in history that have had a
Yeah.
major, major impact on society, culture, and jobs before. And so you can actually learn a lot by looking back as
Yeah.
well, and go with those universal themes of, you're going to have a group of early adopters. You're going to have a huge group that aren't early adopters. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to need that hand holding. They're going to need to know, because that anxiety is going to increase, of how do you walk them through it at a pace in which they are successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can look ahead, but you can also look behind, because the themes are always going to be there. They're universal themes and concepts of how to lead people through change, because
Mm-hmm.
people are still people.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
it.
they're humans.
Helping people to adapt and to use these tools instead of being afraid of these tools,
Mm-hmm.
or use these tools for good instead of being replaced by these tools, like
Mm-hmm.
be the one who leverages the tools. And I think for leaders, so often it's like, don't limit our people by what they have been able to do so far.
Mm, yeah.
It's like, let's expand their potential and teach them how to do these things so that we can together accomplish more. And that's one of the beauties of AI, is that if we learn how to embrace it, it doesn't replace us. We can leverage it for more production. We can
Mm-hmm.
leverage it for higher performance, instead of that fear, like, oh no, I'm going to lose my job. It's like, no, I'm going to create my new job.
Oh,
And
that's a great point. You know what I think of? Number one is, if you've seen the movie Wall-E, it,
Oh yeah.
that's where a lot of fear is coming in of, oh my gosh, machines are going to create this world, like end of the world. Number one, they could take over, and they become, self-intelligent and rewrite their own code and things like that. I
Mm-hmm.
know there's conspiracy theories and all of that, but looking at Wall-E, if you rely on machines to do everything and you just kind of bow out, number one, you ruin your planet with all the resources.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, you become so lazy that you can end up being that Wall-E. But I think that that's an extreme. I tend to look at AI. Number one, it's a tool. Right now, it's a tool to be used, and you decide how to use that tool. Now, tools are adapted by society, and we use them for different purposes. And so you have to be careful in how you decide to use that. But I almost look at it, and here comes my analogy. I really thought on this long and hard when I knew we were talking about AI. And here's the analogy I landed on. I have a teenage driver. She just got her permit, right? And she's fixing to get her license where she can drive by herself. And I look at that and I'm so excited. But AI is like a teenage driver. Is,
Mm-hmm.
I know you have so much potential to help me with so much of the work and the chores and the running, and you're going to provide me so much freedom back on my calendar. Woo! Such a good thing. However, you're not experienced. You don't have the intuition of an experienced driver to know how to navigate all the different scenarios on the road, and
Mm-hmm.
your insurance is really, really high. So really, AI, I'm treating it like my teenage driver right now is, you are going to be useful. It's very helpful. You're going to free up my time, but I'm going to use you when appropriate, and I'm not going to use you in all situations.
Mm-hmm. It's
that's
so funny, and I think you're going to
so good.
test out the usage too,
Hmm.
right? So you're going to experiment with little things as well, right? So maybe you can go here by yourself and do XYZ at this time. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to be very specific. Just like,
Yes.
this is so funny. So my daughter the other day, she was driving to Walmart and she's like, "How do I get to Walmart?" I'm like, "We go to Walmart all the time." And she's like, "I don't ever pay attention." And
No.
so you have to be very, very specific. Turn here, do this. With AI right now, it is such a, you have to give it a very fixed objective. It is not, it doesn't have that intuition. So, hey, AI, go here, do this, don't forget this. Oh, remember this caveat. It doesn't do caveats very well at all. And
No.
so it doesn't have that intuition. So you have to, again, treat it like that teenage driver of, I'm very specific in telling you where to turn and what to do.
Yeah,
I love it.
that's
Michael.
fantastic. I really have it. I think we could just keep making analogies to make it simple, but people probably get it. Again, I think there's just so much people are afraid of, so they're not embracing it. I think some leaders are afraid of it, and so they're not embracing it. So what I would encourage leaders to do is find ways to use it for your people's good. Find ways to help them automate some tasks so they have more time for the things that actually matter. Find ways to leverage AI to streamline some of the processes in your organization that are taking up time that really they don't need to take up. Find ways to use AI to have fewer meetings and to send fewer emails so that your people can accomplish more of the things that really matter. And I think that's where when people can still feel valued, when they can still feel like a part of the cog, like they matter, then they're going to be more open to the changes that are brought in this next revolution, to move into all the different things Bethany said a second ago. The analogy that I landed on was more like a skill saw and how it replaced a band saw and how the band saw replaced this saw and then the hand saw. Like you just keep going back to where AI is just another tool to make us more efficient, but we have to learn how to use it well. Otherwise, you take the saw and you cut off your hand, you're less efficient, you're less effective. So it's learn how to use it well, or it will hurt you. And I think leaders can be the ones to make sure their people know how to do that.
Absolutely. And if you think about, learning how to use a new tool, learning how to do anything for the first time, I mean, and I go back to I don't know, it's a 1990s movie, What About Bob? Baby steps. And so often I think in leadership, we can have a salesperson come in and just promise you the world of it's going to do this and this and this and this. And we just want that magic quick fix pill so bad that we just go all in. And it's almost like that old school parenting where you just throw everybody in the pool, come hell or high water, swim, let's go. And I don't think that that's always a good approach whenever you can say, okay, here's a first baby step. And the first thing is, how can it simplify the complexity of our jobs? And an easy entry point into that pool of AI is to dump lots of data in it and let it pull out the reports. I mean, how much time are we trying to draw insights from data so that we can communicate that of, here's what the economy is doing. Here is the projections for the future. Here's all this data. Instead of spending human hours doing that, that's a great AI task. And think about those automations that.
Well, I agree with you. It's like, because it's Gen AI is really good LLM, like Chat GPT. And I tell people, chat's my buddy, but really great at pattern recognition. And so it is that stuff. Notebook LM, Google's source. You can upload documents into that as a knowledge pool and then ask questions on that. I had a guest on the podcast that another person that had written a book. Michael and I are the only ones I think that haven't written a book. Okay. So I had somebody else who had written a book. In fact, you may have had him on Radical Humility. Or
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Or sent me his PDF book. Okay. And I uploaded it into Notebook because I didn't have time to read the entire book. And so PDF, I put into Notebook LM and asked Notebook questions. And Notebook was able to summarize, give me highlights, call out some stuff in the book. So I was able to speak to themes of stuff going on there because I didn't have time on my calendar to fit the whole thing in. So it's just stuff like that you talk about, Bethany, that it's not going to replace me to be in the podcast, but it made me better prepared to go talk to somebody. It's like, Michael, with what you do. If you have someone who's got a job description from an organization that they can do research on the organization, they can have their resume, right? And put that into like a Notebook LM. Tell me where the synergies are. Tell me where in my resume, I'm going to be able to address some of these challenges or the attributes that they're looking for in their JD. Tell me about the organization. Here's my personal set of values and what my personal mission statement is. Help me, where does that fit with this organization? But
Yeah.
that kind of an analysis can happen that I think a lot of times we don't necessarily do as humans. And then we end up in a role and we're there and we're like, I don't even like this company.
Yeah. I think there's so many paths, right? You could, if you have a larger company or something and you wanted to take and create your own GPT and then drop your information into that,
Yeah.
then it would be a great source for your people, right? It would just
Yeah.
have your information in it instead of everything.
Mhm.
That would be great. But I think to use the transitioning, careers people is like allow that to do the footwork for you, the
Mhm.
first steps, and then you come in on top of that and do the editing, do the processing, do the
Mhm.
harder stuff, but let it again automate some of those tasks that can be done for you quickly
Yeah.
instead of taking hours to do them yourself, which
Mhm.
I know it's like, well, we're just going to make people lazy. It's like,
No.
no, we're just going to
So
get rid of all of the time that it took to do some of these tasks. And now we can do the work that really matters.
Well,
you
and
know,
how many times do we circle and circle and circle and not do it and procrastinate on it because the stuff that you're talking about is stuff we don't want to do.
mhm. It is, Michael, the whole time you were talking, all I can picture, I mean, as a working mom, is my crock pot.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still choosing the ingredients. I've got the recipe. I have to be very specific in that recipe, right? That's what you have to tell. You have to tell AI
Yeah.
exactly what to do. I put it all in there and then I turn it on and then I walk away and I come back and I have lovingly served my family with a meal. But during that time, I was able to go do something else to serve my family.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. It's true. So, Michael, where else do you see it with what you have going on? I mean, because I know you support people, and Bethany, the same question to you. Where are you seeing it show up with the people that you support and the work that you do?
I definitely think in just helping people generate ideas is it's a great idea generator.
Yeah.
Helping people find ways to frame language. Like let's say if you're a transitioning skill, you were a teacher and you created 1,000 lesson plans. Who cares? Most people don't know what a lesson plan means or how long it takes because they remember being in high school and thought the teachers didn't do anything. So it's like let me let's rephrase that and then you just tell chat which industry you're going into, what type of skills do you want this to highlight, and here's what I did.
Yeah.
Give me three options for rephrasing this, and it
Yeah.
does that for you. And it's
yeah.
beautiful. If you were a principal and you want to talk about training teachers or creating onboarding for new hires and stuff like that, then you put those details in, you let that spit it out for you.
Hmm.
I think the other one though is like just like within leadership, just understanding how to create, like streamline these. What are the main things we need to get done in the next 60 days? Here are our objectives. Here are the goals that we have as an organization. Help us prioritize. And then it will do some of that for you. Now,
Hmm.
Michelle and Bethany, both, you understand, let's just make sure that we also need to vet it. We can't just do what it says.
Yeah.
Like chat gives you a list of three things, and it's like you need to make sure those are the right three things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't just copy and paste. Don't
Yeah.
Yeah.
just copy and
Remember
paste.
whenever GPS first came out and everybody had it in their cars and it wasn't exactly updated? And then, like, I'm thinking of The Office with Michael Scott where he turns because it said to turn, he turns into a lake.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, you cannot do exactly what it says. It
No.
is a general guideline, but you have to know your people, your organization, and all those things. Don't just take it word for word.
You know, what's funny is the GPS thing, and I think I shared this story with somebody else before, is when my daughter was in college, we were going the year that she had to go off campus. And so we're back in Boston and we're driving to IKEA because that's where most parents with kids in college go for inexpensive furniture, right? So we're driving and we're on the freeway, and this is Tom, Garmin days, right?
Yep.
And we're on the freeway and it says you have reached your destination. And I'm like, really? Like, we're on the freeway.
Well, I don't see it.
Was
So
there a dumpster on the side of the freeway it wanted you to go explore? I mean,
we look across and there's like an empty field and stuff. And sure enough, the blue and yellow building is over there. And we just start laughing. But that was back in probably 2009, back in those days. So fast forward to today, and I tell people with Waze, I use Waze to go everywhere, just in case there's something up ahead, right? If Waze says it's 125 feet, you're going to turn left. If I stopped my car and got out and measured, it would be pretty freaking close. So that's the advancement, right, of where it is in the precision. But then again, I've also learned to use the tool, to your point. So and it was so funny. So a group of people that I work with doing another endeavor, what they say all the time, because you'll end up with, like, to your point, Michael, we have to check the outputs of what's going on because chat will hallucinate. The comment that they make is, this is the worst it will be because it's just going to get better from here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of encouraging because when I think about you, Michael, with what you do with people to do that translation from you did this thing and here's the industry, if you're supporting them in that thinking and they're literally staring at you like a deer in the headlights, your job is now easier because you have a resource that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
Man.
I know that I use it now and didn't for a while because I enjoy the thinking and the creativity that's required. Like that's
Yeah.
fun for me. Like it's exciting. But what I'm able to do now is if Bethany and I needed to have a meeting and talk about her experience as a school administrator, then I'm able to lean in, listen to her, and then give immediate feedback and thinking. And then I can later go to chat and be like, okay, how could we reframe this? What could we do differently?
Yeah.
I'm able to engage in a conversation with her and help her see it, help her say it, and then we can frame it differently through chat.
Yeah.
It's really just finding ways to leverage the tools that we have.
Yeah. Well, and what I hear is it allows you to stay more present in the conversation and pulling out more details and nuances of what that stuff is because you know you've got a resource on the back end.
Yeah. It's something we haven't said, right? We're talking about leadership is, man, stop having somebody take notes during the meetings and
Yeah.
use an AI note taker. Just let it take the notes, let it summarize, send it to everybody, and then you have good notes from every meeting. And somebody didn't have to do all that, then type them up, then email them out. It's like save that person's time so they can, again, do the tasks that matter most.
Yeah. Well, and the reality of it, at least with me, and I think most humans, because of where our brains are wired, is if I'm taking notes, I'm not hearing everything that's going on. I'm not tracking with everything that's going on because I'm literally writing down what I just heard. And while I'm writing, I'm not hearing what's being said. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
Well, and for our conversation, I think most of this stuff circles back to the emotional intelligence is like, let's find ways to help people use their gifts, like help people use their strengths and help people feel more valued. And so by taking some of these well, we'll call them lower level tasks.
Yeah.
By taking some of those off people and allowing them to focus their energy on the more important tasks. The office manager who's got some looming deadline that's pressuring her or him and feels like you got to get these notes out. Like, let's just remove that.
Yeah.
But
it's an easy automation aspect of it, right? And I think, as leaders, Michael Hyatt talks about in Free to Focus, you look at number one, the first question is, what can I eliminate? We're doing a lot of dumb stuff out there. And then what can I, automate and then delegate, looking at all those aspects. But looking at leadership, I think you've always, in leadership, it's so complex. It's never an easy answer on anything. Everything has its layer and levels of complexity. And so it's almost like there's this beautiful video on YouTube. If you go look it up, it's called Cats in Borneo, and it's about systems thinking. And so in this
Cats in Borneo?
Cats in Borneo. I know it sounds crazy.
Okay, I'm
But
writing it down.
they're having like this, issue with lizards and bugs and eating the thatch roofs and all that stuff. So they first spray pesticides, but then it ends up killing the certain animal that they need for sustainability. And then it causes all these problems. So their one solution to something actually ended up causing a bunch of problems where they ended up airdropping cats in Borneo. It's a fabulous 3-minute video. But the whole point of that is, you come in with a solution and you think it's going to fix this one problem, but that's actually not the first problem. You're doing a Band-Aid solution when you need a corrective surgery type solution. And so my one caveat in looking at AI is, as with any tool, yes, there's so much possibility for automation to ease up stuff, but we humans are so good at once something becomes automated or easier, we just love adding more complexity. So we usually fill that time with something else that may not be of value. And I think in leadership, as you look at how AI is utilized, if you're in a bigger organization, they're looking at building their own AI platforms because there's massive security reasons, right?
Mhm.
You don't want to dump your data necessarily
Mm-mm.
in a chat GPT for your company
Yeah.
because of security concerns. So organizations are looking at setting up their own AI systems, but with all of that, you have to always have that one eye looking of, are we really solving the correct problem?
Mhm.
Where's that first problem? And where's the risk of building other problems that we're not aware of? So you have to
Mhm.
wade into that slowly. But some entry level points is, copywriting. If I'm an entrepreneur, and so I do have an online platform. So I take my blogs, I take my podcast transcripts, and I'm like, hey, pull out the key points of this, so that I can post on social media. So it's
Mhm.
helping me with copywriting. That's an
Mhm.
entry point. I've done the main work with my guests or the blog or
Mhm.
whoever, but it's allowing me to extrapolate the key
Mhm.
points of that. So I think with pros, always immediately ask, can there be a con of this? Because
Mm.
efficiency, automation, yes. Is there a con? I need to stop and think about a con. And you know what? Before we came on today, I put into Chat GPT and I said, hey, what are some pros and cons of using you? And it actually spit out a list of pros and cons. And a lot of the cons were accurate. It was security, it was losing the human touch. So
Yeah.
even ask AI, hey, what's a con of me using you for this one thing? What can
Mhm.
happen? Maybe
Yeah.
Yeah,
it'll give you the right answer.
I love it.
The other thing too is you can ask chat about ways to use chat. So depending on your industry or what else is going on. So I agree with all that. And I think the theme that I'm hearing through all this is it is here, right? And I joke around and tell people it's at our doorstep, literally. I mean,
Yeah.
with Chat GPT, OpenAI, if you don't know about it, because a lot of times the leaders that I've talked to that don't know, they say, well, I should be doing that. A lot of times they don't know the entry point. They
Hmm.
don't know how to start.
Yeah.
They don't know what that looks like. And so I think it's actually, is it chat.com now? It may be chatgpt.com or chat.com, the domain name that OpenAI bought, that reroutes right there. But it's an easy entry point and it's a free account and you can play with it and you can find out ways within your industry that, AI can help. Um, and the Copilot's another thing, Microsoft has that where you can go in work mode and then it just uses the content and the knowledge from the portal that you have, the shared drives that you have.
Yeah.
So there's stuff that's happening. I think the theme for me is it's here. Be responsible and intentional in including it. And to your point, Bethany, don't just buy the Louis Vuitton purse because you need a purse, right? Just be really thoughtful about how you're stepping into it. And then, engage with your people because a lot of times we can automate stuff that's a broken process, which means you just got faster crap. So it's like, you know, fix the stuff first and figure out and be thoughtful about how we use it. But there's
Yeah.
so many, I'm going to call it low-hanging fruit that there is within our own personal stuff that we do.
Yeah.
That's cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to the cats and Borneo concept, I know there's going to be some impact that we're not
I'm
aware
going
of.
to go watch that, by the way,
Oh,
because
it's
now I'm
fabulous.
really curious. It's because
Yeah,
I've heard it way too many times from your mouth. So,
well, I mean, and it's a cartoon image like video, so it's
okay.
great. But one of those things is think about, as you think about bigger impact, because I can easily use it, and I do use it for my business for smaller tasks, right? I
Yeah.
treat it as the teenage driver. Do
Yeah.
this tiny little task successfully, and it does. But I don't let it do the big things. Um, and so in the use of it, anything computer based takes a lot of electricity.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I know I have a husband who works in the utility industry. And so as we talk about climate change, as you talk about, the impact of resources to be able to produce the
Mm-hmm.
electricity, when we build these massive computers and systems and all that stuff, it also drains resources and you have to
Mm-hmm.
have the infrastructure to support that. And
Mm-hmm.
so just thinking, and praise God, I'm so thankful I'm not in a job where I have to think about, all of those things. I do think about sustainability in the products I choose,
Mm-hmm.
but the lawmakers, the world, they're going to have to come to terms with what bigger impacts can AI have, and not just AI the thing, but AI the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
On copyright, on because it pulls data from things. Well, did all of the people from those books and artists and musicians and all the things, did they give consent to use their stuff? And so there's bigger questions that have to be
Mm-hmm.
asked. But for my little peon self, I use it of, hey, give me key highlights of this text.
Mm-hmm.
And it works beautifully.
Yes. Yes, I agree. Michael.
I just think all of that is one, it's very wise. And since our topic is emotionally intelligent, I feel like, Bethany, you just nailed a lot of that. Uh, I want to encourage any leaders who may listen to this, that if you're like a laggard, right, you're a late adopter and you're afraid of it, then find someone in your organization who's already using it and let them teach you. Like, make it a safe space for them to show you how to use it, or bring them in to give them a seat at the table and let them do some of the things that maybe you're not sure about or you're afraid to mess up, because there's value in that for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, as you both said, make sure that it's the right things.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure your processes are fixed. I listened to a comedian the other day, and his clip was like, science and medicine, they're always making us live longer. You can live longer. You can live longer. And he said, how about we fix the crappy world first? Then let's live longer. Like, let's solve some of the junk and then live longer. But whatever is, I just think there's a space here within leadership to create vulnerability for people
Mm-hmm.
by displaying that yourself, and then be coachable, be teachable, and
Mm-hmm.
then your people are going to be more willing to do those same things.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
that's my take.
Yeah, lead by example, walk the talk. Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you, both of you. I enjoyed time in the room with you individually, and I love this because you've got a history. I don't think we talked about it, Michael. How did you and so you two have known each other for a long time. You shared with me before I hit record.
Yeah, so it probably goes back to her older brother, Joseph. One, we all lived in the same area, but if this gets out into the world, I was in the same class as her sister-in-law, and so we were graduating together. But her brother and Lori, girl I was in school with, got in a relationship, and then because I was one of the connecting pieces, her brother gave me a ride to school. And so it just got me connected to the family. And so I started hanging out with them and one of her cousins. And through that, just became friends with the family. And just they're just really great people. Bethany's always been like a really, really just nice person.
Yes.
Very kind. Also, like, pretty good at ball. Back in the day, don't know if you play ball
Wow.
now or what you do now, but quite an athlete back in the day. So lots of fun stuff there.
I
And
love it.
so now,
Yeah.
fast forward, she's married to one of the guys that I was very close to, when I was 18, 19, 17, 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
And so it's just, there's still the dynamic there. I think partly because I'm like, man, I want to be influential like that. I want to have, like, she's got some levers that she pulls, and it's just really, really neat.
No, I would say I come from a great family, and Michael has been around that, but also we come from a great community with a lot of support and great friendships, and it has produced. I mean, looking at where we're at, but not just us and all the people that we grew up with, it produced a whole slew of great parents and friends and leaders. And
Yeah, I
so,
love that.
it takes a village to raise people, and we're just a product of our village.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a cool story. It's cool to hear because Michael's the one that connected me to you, Bethany. And it's just like, and it's cool to hear how deep the roots are. It's a really cool thing. So thank you. Again, I appreciate your time. And if you can pick one or two things just to cap what you want people to walk away with on this topic, what would that be? Bethany, if we can start with you.
AI is a tool. It
Okay.
cannot replace the human connection.
Mm,
You are in the people business as a leader, and so focus on the people aspect first and foremost out of anything. Tools come and go and will change, so focus on your people and building those strong relationships and leading them well.
thank you. I appreciate it. Michael.
Can I piggyback?
Sure.
So I'm just going to go with AI is a tool, and make sure you have the right tool for your particular industry.
Ooh,
Like
mhm.
there are millions of tools out there, and if you use a hammer for a car dealership, you're going to have a problem. So it's like make sure that you're using AI for its best purposes within your organization,
Mhm.
and be okay with the gap in knowledge that people have and help them overcome that,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of fear associated there. So again,
Mhm.
it is a tool, and just make sure that you're using it the best way for your intended purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sitting here bobbleheading with all of it. I think the thing that I would add is, and it kind of goes back to not the emotional intelligence, but some other, when I was researching quotes, different themes. Um, it's the ethical, the human responsibility around it. Not everything is about the bottom line. And so I think that's the other part of it too. There is a balance here. There's a balance in having the business, having a healthy profit margin, moving stuff forward, caring for your people and bringing it forward. So there's, just make sure as a leader you're looking at all that stuff and not just the shiny object that's at the other end of it. I think that would be it for me. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
good
Yeah.
stuff. Good
All
stuff.
right, you
Y'all make me
two.
better, so thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
Until
so
next
much.
time, Leadership Sound Bites with Bethany Rees, Michael Stinnett, and Michelle, and have a freaking awesome day. Thank you.
Yeah.